Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to Macduff Lives and a special chat. It's Thursday, the 9th of February, 2023. Just coming off of a flu about of the flu, which lasted about about 4 days for me. I was very lucky. First 2 days were quite unpleasant, but things started to clear up quickly, and now, except for just a little bit of hoarseness, I think I can say I'm just fine. And hello, Corky. Good to have you with me. And David, hello. Yeah, I tell you what's been going on with me. I'm recovering now, also with all the other projects because things have gotten behind, and laundry's all over the floor, and oh, life it doesn't wait for you while you're sick. So now I have to catch up with all that stuff and try to do it easily and gently without pushing too hard. We're still taking care of drummer. She's also nearly done with it, but still has a few symptoms. So we're happy to be surviving the crud, the thing, whatever it is. It's a uh, a mystery, really. Never had any real involvement in the lungs. I never really felt like I was in danger of pneumonia or any kind of an infection, but nevertheless, you still have the fever and the chills and the just kind of utter exhaustion and dryness that you have. Um, well, enough about me. Um, let's see. Oh, Corky, you had it too. I was kind of surprised though that it appears to have been infectious, just like the old flu. When you didn't, when years ago when we had the regular flu, um, you didn't want to be around somebody that was sick. But other than that, what else did you do? Nothing. You certainly didn't quarantine people like we did for God knows what, a year or more, and worse and worse and worse some places in the world. This the amount of obvious insane overreaction to a virus. Well, you can't just accept these things. You have to think about it and try to figure out what's going on. And of course, I've been grateful to have a lot of help and s- what's steered us through the dangerous rocks and hard places, um, has been engagement with you guys, engagement with a lot of people, talking to, not just your old friend from high school, but reaching out to new people and see what are they thinking. And now I have this real amazing garden of resources where I can just go and say, I need to know more about how viruses work. And so, I look at all kinds of resources now. I've learned a great deal about how vaccines work, but certainly not enough to claim that I'm an expert. But nevertheless, I am pushing back the boundaries of darkness, pushing back the uncertainty away so that I can somehow steer between two or three or 10 different bad results, and stand here saying I am physically fine, 70 years old, and not having any long-term sequelae as far as I can tell. And been watching two videos this morning. One of them on SGT report. I guess it's a man named Sean whose work I've looked at over the years and hadn't watched him much lately, but because he had the great Dr. Lynn Horowitz on his show, this most recent one, I had to watch it, and so I'm about halfway through that one. Really recommend it to you. Obviously, anytime you get a chance to hear from Lynn Horowitz, his latest opinions, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us to learn. So, uh, if you haven't seen that, it's on SGT Report, and you can find that by Googling if you don't know. He's on YouTube. I think he's still on YouTube. I found him on Twitter this morning, which was nice. I like to see these people that I used to watch on Twitter. Now they're back on Twitter. Yay. So anyway, that is one. The other one is I'm very, I'm hoping to understand what the the research community, the resistance or whatever you want to call it, and I don't use these terms because I know what I'm talking about. A group called Drastic has been together for since the 2020 era and working on these problems, and they have their own way of couching things. But what I mean to say is that there stands now the question of what is called the clone wars. And from talking offline a little bit with Nick, Saint Nick or Nick from Twitter, and trying to understand where the disputes are, because the, and that's what science is, right? Science is a bunch of propositions and counter ideas and experimentation to rule out things that can't happen, and you know paring down the results until you can see, the meat of the nut, what's really going on here. And that's why we do science. So it's wonderful to have debates going on. There's not very many fields where you really have scientific debates going on anymore. And this is this is important. It's desperately important that we keep debating with each other to try to find out the answers, because as I said before, none of us can put our arms around this. This is far too big. So we have to reach out instead to each other and put all of our arms around the problem, and then look at it from like we've encircled it, and we're going to close in on it and squeeze the truth out of it. So I think that of course, Mark Kulak has been fantastic with this stuff, and David Underdown also. And the I don't want to leave anybody out, but I just really do want to specifically credit Mark Kulak's amazing tenacity with his research, and he's gotten so far, so far. So Housatonic Live on YouTube, and um, just go to Housatonic.live on your search engine, and you'll find his website. Um, so from there, I started being aware of other sources, such as Dr. Kevin McKernan, who is not a medical doctor, but a science doctor. And I tried to watch him, and I just couldn't watch him. He's got all of these distracting things going on. There's a something going on a video screen here, and then there's a little widget over here making noise, and then he's in his chair and he's swinging back and forth, and like and when are you going to get to the point? And I don't know. Maybe if you already understand the lingo of biology and virology and viruses and things like that, then it's one thing. But um, I can't absorb new information with a bunch of distracting signals going on around me. And a matter of fact, it makes me a little bit suspicious that maybe you know the distractions are there to open up some doors in my mind that I might normally keep closed to keep out possible disinfo. So, I love the idea that Dr. Kevin McKernan has a lot to say, and I think I mean, other people can watch that stuff and find out whether there's important solutions that I need to know there. But just a matter of I can't get through that style is so no. But more recently, I've been looking at J.J. Couey, and his site is called GigaOM Biological, and he broadcasts on Twitch. And it's JJCOUEY is his last name, and he is a PhD biologist, and he um, has been a part of the drastic thing, and I don't know on off. I don't know who's in it, who's out of it. I don't know, but they have um, among themselves come up with a dispute called the Clone Wars. And I think this is really where I'm most interested because I can understand what he was talking about this morning in his show. I guess he did it last night, but I'm watching the replay. When he talks about replication of an RNA versus replication of a DNA, because a DNA is double stranded and an RNA is one single stranded, it's going to be a lot harder to get uh, reproductive authenticity or accuracy from a RNA than it is from a DNA. And he just demonstrates that and talks about how, shows all these scientific papers about how that's done. And the thing is that his hypothesis is that the actual infectious agent that we've been dealing with is a clone. It's a laboratory manufactured clone a um, of an RNA virus, and that because of of that, the likelihood that it's going to be able to sustain itself as a real true pandemic is virtually nil because of the problem with copies. And then he uses a metaphor of how, and he's absolutely right. We used to have cassette tapes, and if you wanted to make a special mix of cassette, I did it. I had one of those uh, dual machines where you could put in a blank tape on one side and put your favorite songs tape on the other side, and then get all your favorite songs from 10 different cassettes and put them all onto one new cassette and give that to your friend. And your friend would like that because those are all the good hot songs that you guys enjoy together. But then if you take that one and copy it, then it's going to get worse. And the worse copies are, the less likely anybody wants to listen to them. And I think it's a metaphor that he's relies on to talk about what sees as the problem with clones. And to me, it makes a lot of sense that we had a bunch of outbreaks in, like, especially New York, right? But and so what I'm talking about is the whole suspicious nature of calling it a pandemic when you don't really see that viral um, contagion flowing out and just continuing to go. That it seems to peter out pretty fast compared to something that was really a classic, pandemic. J.J. Couey on GigaOM Biological. So those are the two things that uh, I spent my morning from 6:30 drinking coffee and watching those videos and trying to get it right. Um, and one other thing was on my mind, which I wanted to share, and then I'll start going through and see what you guys want to talk about. And that is a question I put up on Twitter this morning. And here's my question: are the BRICS financed by the same people who are running the COVID? And I won't use the other words I use because I don't want to lose my channel. Okay. But financing, you know, the the BRICS. And the reason that I raise that question, of course, is we have President Lula of Brazil, uh, you know, one of the big BRICS, right? Saying, hey, if you don't get vaccinated, you can't work, you can't travel, you can't, in other words, he is imposing all of the draconian restrictions that we have fought like hell to get rid of here, at this late stage. And that to me is really a bad sign because you can now combine that with Edward Slavsquat's work, our good friend, AKA Riley Wagaman, who's going to be back with us in March, by the way. Um, and he reports on the same situation in Russia, that Russia is completely on board with the universal vax program of the World Health Organization. And there doesn't seem to be any indication that Putin is going to save us from it. Lula is not going to save us from it. Do you think anybody else is? Do you think Modi is in India? Um, I don't see it. I am, I love the idea of having a BRICS financial system. I love the idea of diversing our financial system generally so that, if I if I've got Chinese renminbi and I want to buy something from you and you want to buy my you want to trade for my renminbi, there wouldn't be anything illegal about that. Or, using foreign currency as money. If you think it has value, then maybe you'd like to trade, your goods for some foreign currency instead of the dollar. But that, of course, kills the dollar, right? Or at least that's the theory. There has to be a resolution of this dollar problem. The dollar uh, is a huge problem, and we discussed that in terms of the petrodollars and offshore accounts that are not taxable. Every All of the wealth of all of these wealthy people is hidden in tax shelters in you know Cayman Islands, Bahamas, you name it, wherever. All over the world, they've got these little hidey holes where governments can't find the money, and so the only money they can find is from us, the common people. And then when they can't get any more out of us directly, they just inflate our currency and take it from us indirectly. And it's just gone way, way too far. The crash will be absolutely disastrous if we don't stop it. We've got to get a hold of it. So that's what I'm concerned about. I'd love to see, I love the Schiller Institute and LaRouche folks and promotion of the Belt and Road and all of the goodness that can come from it, as long as we have a honest, open world in which individuals can say yes or no to proposed injections into their bodies and have individual autonomy as our Constitution says we do. So let me go back and scroll through. Hello, Corky David. Christopher, the constantly mutating bioweapon is Scourge from Satan. I'm not saying you're wrong. You know, That's another thing about if you look at this SGT report that I'm talking about with Lynn Horowitz, you'll find that there is a great deal of reliance on faith and uh, a relationship, what Horowitz calls communion with God, or and then he talks about how water is like the the God element in a way. It, it fits very much Corky Goss with what you say about the ether, in a sense that what we need to do is to believe that there is a God or something that we can't explain, but some benevolence that we need to have faith in. And when we have faith in that God, then we can express our good intentions into the world and do good, do what I guess religion calls God's will. And that also that we can be very grateful and express our gratitude to for life, gracias a la vida. Thank you for letting me be alive. It's not a prison sentence. It's a great privilege, and I'm a spiritual being just passing through, as the hippies say, just passing through. So to be aware of and constantly aware and not lose sight of the fact that we are a lot more than flesh and blood, and that this is something we're passing through, and that whatever is on the other side is not to be ignored and not to be pretended that it doesn't exist, because that is how Satan wins. If you want to talk in terms of Satan versus God, Satan wants everything destroyed. Hello, Marie. Great to have you, Marie Burns in Scotland. Hello, Jessica. And End of Days Prophet is here. Been one hell of a journey. It sure has, hasn't it? What a long, strange trip it's been. Yeah, long, strange trip. Above top secret. Yep, that was good. Hello, Taz. You are endorsing Jay Couey, and I appreciate that. I know that there's been a lot of dispute, but I don't know, who's on what side or what's wrong with the. This is where I'm really going to keep on working myself, is to try to get enough of this biology under my belt so I can see what's in play here. If it turns out that he's wrong, that it's not about cloning things and the problem of that I tried to describe, probably not very well. But if it's not that, then okay, let's push it aside and move on, because there's something else. There's something here that is generating these excess deaths. An analysis of the excess deaths, and speaking of people I think are very important, I'm going to say once again Dennis Mancour. Um, That's DENISRANCOURT. And he has his own website, and he is very active working on analysis of all cause death certificates, and his findings are frightening. He's finding that over 10 million people have been killed by the you know what. So, Dennis Rancour, just another name for you all for me to share if you're not aware of him yet. The O'Keefe thing has gotten an awful lot of time and ink, and I don't think it deserves it. Just, I don't want to spend any time talking about that because it's a big sideshow, in my opinion. Mobster, 8-track. Oh, you're dating yourself, Mobster. That's right. Leslie Mankina. Yes, Carlos Santana. Those were my tapes too. I loved Santana. I had hair just like him. I actually used to look like Santana. Didn't play guitar like him, though. Mr. Potato Chips. BRICS have their own bioweapons labs. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I would think that all of that is really just, you know, the same American DARPA stuff. Uh, I don't think that I don't see a competitive bioweapon development in one of those BRICS countries. They couldn't possibly be that free of CIA and surveillance and everything else to get away with having a competing program. If they have programs, it's probably all just another tentacle of the same one that we find in Ukraine and Wuhan. Corky says, "Come on, Brazil, look at New Zealand. Horse's mouth all done." Well, I don't think it takes too long to figure out who Corky is talking about. That that was that was so cruel what they did and what they've done in the Aboriginal areas in Australia and other places. I mean, they're using these Commonwealth countries for uh, examples, and they took away the guns from the Australians back in the 60s. So what are the Australians going to do? The last thing you need is a government with a monopoly on violence. You don't need that. And that's one of the big problems we have with our liberal friends is they somehow think that it's okay to create a government that gets all the guns. And I don't, that's just not anything near the concept of liberty. Hello, Doug. Doug says Brazil was overthrown to regain control of agricultural exports and their central bank. Makes sense to me. Roger Jokey, PM me. Well, you can reach me at koproductionsusa@gmail.com. Corky. Oh, yeah, loss. Corky says, my end of innocence was 2006. My favorite brother-in-law had an aneurysm and died. Never forget gratitude. There's just there's nothing you can do about death, but you know, somehow we have to get past it. It really sucks, doesn't it? Brightmore, how are you? Rothschild Bank going private off stock market because of better future. I don't know. I mean, I think they're just withdrawing the money from circulation so that we can't use it to grow our economies. That, that's something that, it takes a while to understand the famous quote from Nathan Rothschild where he says, I care if let me control the money supply and I care not who writes the laws. The money supply. What's important about the money supply? That means how much money is circulating in the economy. And if by controlling the amount of currency or the amount of credit, you as a bank can allow the economy to grow or you can allow it to die. And to me, I think they're trying very hard to force it to die so that then they, scrape up all the assets and sell them back to us at a better price while we work our asses off to a later and later retirement date. One of the things I'll tell you, my wife, was, if she had retired at 65, I don't think she would have had the heart attack because all the pressure came on her, after she was that age and that she wanted to make it to the Social Security official retirement age, which they pushed back to like 66 and a half or 66 and a third. Why? Because that's how they pay for their wars all around the world. They need to, take it out of our Social Security. So, yeah, that does not mean people are healthy enough to work into their late 60s. Just because you change the law that says you have to, or else you lose part of your benefits. This is fascist government. When you say it's more important to me to send our money to some nutcase warriors overseas than it is to abide by the traditional, natural, common sense that you don't overburden people after they're 62 or 65 or whatever your cultural standard is. But you can't expect people to just work until they're 70 or 80 or 90 and not have health problems. And you've known that. You've always known that, especially when you're in a stressful position. I mean, if you're doing something you love, that's one thing, like, if you're Pablo Casals and you're 97 and you're just still playing the cello, and they say, well, of course I am. I love playing the cello, you know? But if you are working in a high stress environment with political pressure on you, I don't know. I don't know. I'm I'm not an expert in that, but I think it's quite clear that as we get older, the stress that can be imposed on us in just trying to make a living takes a more and more of a toll on us, and especially cardiovascular. Road Warrior number 11 says all wars are banker wars. U.S. military and NATO are the enforcement arm for the U.S. dollar. Yep. And Taz says a group of bankers should never have been given control of our monetary system, and that should be corrected. ASAP, yes, STAT. And oh, the dude abides, guys. Yeah. And we went to Iceland, Reykjavik. They have a bar there. Uh, oh, what the hell? Anyway, it's a famous place where the whole bar is set up as rep, a place for oh, that Jeff Bridges character, the dude, and dudism. I like him. But he's a character in The Big Lebowski. Thank you. That represents how people of my generation adapted to the insanity of the world and just learned how to just survive, to weave between the the issues and be a survivor and find a way to enjoy your life while you're surviving. And that means leaning back in the bathtub with the nub of a little joint and feeling like a king. But reality does intrude, and it certainly intruded upon poor Mr. Lebowski. All right. Anyway, I enjoy that movie very much. Professor Hamamoto, hello. And you're talking about the same frequency that Dr. Horowitz is talking about, and that is 528 hertz sacred frequencies. And again, I don't know a lot about these sacred frequencies, but when we talk about Tesla and we talk about, all of the wisdom that is, if you want to know what the future is, study frequencies, study resonance. And so that's what I need to do. Doug says, without Brazil, the BRICS get no traction. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And this is it just mind-boggling to me how you can say that somebody like Lula, who is going to impose universal inoculation on, his entire population for no other reason than he just decided that's what they're going to do, is somehow going to be a savior? No way. That's what we fight against here. Mobster says Lula is a psychopath in the Trudeau mold. That makes sense. So they're, characters that are molded, from birth to be leaders of. Not now. Good morning. Joseph Lee, MD, says a 2-day fast will heal the body if COVID is contracted. And well, that's exactly what I did. I mean, I one of the first things that I recalled was reading about how the old saying of feed a fever and starve a cold was wrong, and that what you need to do is starve a fever and starve a cold. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just repeating what I read, and it made sense to me. So I said, I'm not hungry anyway, so I'm just not going to eat much. And I didn't eat anything the first day. You don't feel like it anyway. But the next day, no, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm going to test this theory out. And by the third day, and I also did something else that I think maybe I would want to mention, and that is that I went out in the backyard. It was 51 degrees. and I took off my shirt and I took off my undershirt because it was a sunny day, and I just soaked in some sun for about 5 minutes. Uh, even though I wasn't completely healthy, it wasn't that cold, and the idea of getting direct sun rays into as much of my body, my skin as I could made a lot of sense to me. So, but the idea of a 2-day fast, and the other thing that I like about your post not now is that you're referring to Dr. Joseph Lee, who I think is another one of those courageous individuals that needs our respect and support. In Enkidu Gilgamesh, good morning or good afternoon or hello wherever you are. I suppose you're still over there in Germany. And oh, it's good to hear from you. Saw you in the chat last night, but I couldn't divert to say hi. So hello now, and ah, all good things to you, my friend. Um, if you would put in your in the chat there, Enkidu, the name of your website so people can study your work, because I know it's in German and I can't remember exactly, but if just a simple way for folks to study your work, because I highly recommend if you're studying weather modification, atmospheric rivers, the trying to understand, what are called, chemtrails, quote unquote. Um, this is not uh, somebody that has just thrown a couple of ideas together. This is a very serious, deep thinker, and I highly recommend his work. That's Enkidu Gilgamesh. And Enkidu says the Peaceful Nuclear Explosions Treaty explains the use of nuclear bombs in detail. The use of nuclear bombs. Hmm. Well, peaceful nuclear explosion sounds to me like ways to create energy for commercial use. Um, but I don't know this treaty. Tell you what, I'm going to Google it. Peaceful, peaceful nuclear explosions treaty. Okay, peaceful nuclear explosions treaty (PNET), designed in preparation for the Threshold Test Ban Treaty, governs nuclear explosions that are carried out outside test sites as established under the Threshold Test Ban Treaty. The United States and the Soviet Union agreed not to carry out explosions exceeding 150 kilotons and group explosions unless the yield of the individual explosions in the group could be verified. The treaty does not ban against peaceful nuclear explosions in the territory of another state, but these explosions have to comply with yield limitations and be in accord with the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty. The PNET and the TTBT were established under a comprehensive system of regulations with neither state able to withdraw from the treaty until the TTB finishes duration of 5 years. It looks like it has expired. I'm looking at the website of the Arms Control Association. So, yes, there is or was such a treaty, and I am, of course, intrigued with your idea and will try to follow it up, Enkidu, if you have. And also after the show, if you can drop your leads and links in the comment section below, it's easier for people to see them without having to scroll through the chat. Okay, and Kadu says, John, you need to stop spreading the lies about earthquakes by HARP. The earthquakes are the direct result of underground nuclear explosions regulated between USA and USSR. Okay, well, I'm not so convinced that I'm spreading lies about it. I've studied it enough to have an opinion, and that is my opinion. But of course, being wrong is the only way to learn anything. So if I'm wrong, I'd like to be educated. I'm not going to stop saying what I'm saying and could do until I have new information. The earthquakes are the direct result of underground nuclear explosions regulated between USA and USSR. All right. Well, that's a whole bunch of research I'm going to have to do to try to follow what you're saying there, and could do, unless you can give me something that I can read, a nice link, drop it somewhere, because I'm fascinated with your idea, but again, I have to have the details. Got to read the program. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to see what generally is going on in the chat room before I move along. Taz says, once again, people like NZ's horse's mouth keep showing up out of nowhere. I suspect the capture of elections is global and includes state and local levels in the U.S. Yeah, I think so too. You know, Maryland looks kind of bad where I live, and um, the characteristic of Jacinda Ahern is that she absolutely she's bought she's so mentally into believing in what she's saying that it's like she's been under mind control and she doesn't know it. And somehow they get these people that think they're being, I guess Kamala Harris might be another one, where they think that they understand what's at stake, and they think that they understand how to do the right thing, but they have blinders on. They've been told not to look this way, not to look that way, just take the facts that we give you and push it as hard as you possibly can. And these are puppets, and they're being used. And it makes those of us that see through it, we get angry, get mad, we want to throw the bums out. It was fun talking to Bill Taylor last night. I think Bill has seen a lot of the worst of this, living in New Jersey and seeing what happens to his children's colleagues in their high school when they're forced to take these things that we can't mention, and medical consequences. And I don't know if they're, direct relationship. I can't say that. I'm not a doctor, but again, we do need to have permission to talk about it, to suggest that it might be the case, and let's talk about it. For goodness sakes. There's a new voice. Hello, Mikita Danilov. Russia is not less corrupt than Ukraine. Plus, Russians and Ukrainians have the same mentality. I feel that the Western experts overestimate the ability of Russians to win the conflict. What do you think? I wish I would. I'd read that at the beginning of the show because it's worth spending a substantial amount of time on. What do I think? Right now, I think that um, people like Colonel Douglas McGregor are and Scott Ritter uh, are expressing and have and the Duran, the Alexanders. These are big voices in the alternate media, basically saying that Russia has this huge ability to overwhelm Ukraine and inevitably will win, but they're not. Now, there's a big breakthrough supposedly going on right now around Bakhmut and Siversk, and it's possible that a large part of the Ukrainian army can get encircled within the next couple of months, which might cause a surrender or at least uh, a a truce that might lead to peace. If you can capture 50,000 of their soldiers in a cauldron, and they might decide it's time to negotiate. Right, I'm talking speaking out from the Russian point of view toward the Ukrainians. From the Ukrainian point of view, I mean, they have to do whatever they're told. This Zelensky is obviously a a front man for some very very serious people behind the scenes, and ultimately, if this becomes a war of attrition, then NATO's going to win because ultimately NATO has far more money to invest in the the industrial capacity to build more tanks, more artillery systems, more drones, and more air defense. So I think right now Russia has the advantage. The question is now, will the Western economies decide that they want to continue doubling down to pay for the war in Ukraine, or will people like the people of Germany, the people of Poland, the people of Great Britain, and the people of the United States ever say no? Stop taking our money from us to send it to kill soldiers in a place that really shouldn't affect our lives one way or the other. The great game played out in Ukraine in our time, thousands and thousands of young people dying in that war every week. And we haven't even mentioned, and we must, the tragedy of the Turkey earthquake. Um, Enkidu brought it up by saying I shouldn't lie and say that it was caused by HARP. Well, I'm not lying, I'm just giving you my opinion. But I had not considered that it might also have been caused by underground nuclear explosions. So while I don't know, it certainly is something worth checking out. And if Enkidu, if it is your theory that it's caused by nuclear explosions, then give me something that I can read. I want to study that. I don't want to have to spend all day looking for clues because I'm just not going to do it. Stephen McElwain, I heard it was 432. Well, 432 is one of them. It's like the musical one that's often referred to, as the proper frequency for the note A, and that's a different issue in a way from the supposed frequency of the Earth, which is different. That's the 528 one that is referred to again by Lynn Horowitz in the SGT report that I was watching this morning. Yep, get some sunshine if you possibly can. That's where the vitamin D ultimately comes from. Let's see. Okay, the nuclear explosion treaties about using nuclear bombs for mining and construction. Yeah, okay. And I didn't even know about this treaty, so I'm glad that you're alerting me to it. That is the reason for the artificial earthquakes like the ones in Haiti, Indonesia, Turkey, etc. Um, okay. Well, it's logical. I just need to see some more literature on it. May you put links there? Yes, please do. But put them in the comments after the show, if you would, because again, if you put them in the chat, then people are not going to find it. They're going to have to scroll through the chat, and if they don't know it's there, they won't even look. So, whereas it's so much better if you put it in the comment section right after the show. And let me wrap the show up because I've gone after over afternoon. Let's see. John, your opinion is the result of suggestive. So, okay, man. Well, I've been subjected to worse in my time, and nevertheless, I still maintain it, I think, for myself. Yeah, Dr. Horowitz was live this morning, explained about the fourth. Well, 432 was a diversion. No, it wasn't a diversion. It's just, he said it's a good frequency. I don't think you heard him correctly. Um, and 432 is, I like it too. I've sang many operas in fourth. I've sung opera in 432, and I like it better. All right. Well, listen, Enkidu, I want to get you more into the show if you're willing. Let's schedule something. And remember, I'm at KO Productions USA at gmail.com, and send me a note. I actually don't have your email anymore, Enkidu, so I'd love to get back together with you for some offline discussion. And we'll see if if we can possibly get a show together. I'd enjoy it. Okay, thanks everybody. See you guys tomorrow.